Daniel.
Oh, where's Daniel Whitehouse?
You didn't have to do a song and dance after.
Good morning.
Good morning, Daniel. How are you?
I'm well. How's everyone else?
We're doing pretty good. All right, I'm sure we're going to have to let in some more folks that are joining, and we are going to record this session so we can share it. But Sherry, our chair of the committee, if you'd like to open it up and then turn it over to Daniel.
Absolutely. So good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. Happy first day of October 2020. We were blessed to have some nice cool weather this morning, so that's a great way to start the day. And another great way to start the day is with our Public Policy Committee meeting today. Thank you all for joining us. It should be a very interesting and great discussion. And to lead that and to introduce our guest speakers, I would like to turn over the mic to Daniel Whitehouse. So Daniel, if you'll take it away, I'd much appreciate it.
Thanks, Sherry. Our topic today is trails, which I know many of us utilize either for recreation or for transportation or just for, various point A to point B type scenarios. And we didn't get the network of trails that we have in South Lake without the help of many folks bringing together the connections that exist. And so connecting the trails is going to be a topic of the discussion as well. So we've got 3 speakers who are all highly qualified to talk on this subject. And they're going to have about 10 to 15 minutes each. We will do an introduction of each one at the time of their speaking. But our speakers are Greg Gensheimer with the Green Mountain Scenic Byway, Joe Dunn with Friends of Lake Apopka, and Mike Stevens with he's the chair of the Trails Committee as part of the Lake 100 group that has formed an advocacy arm to talk about some of the trail connections that we need. So we're going to start with Greg, and if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about the organization. And again, we'll keep it to about 10 to 15 minutes. Sorry, one second, Greg. We're going to try to hold any questions that we have until the end, just in the interest of time, to make sure that our speakers have the time that they need to discuss the material. So with that, we will turn it over to Greg. We can't hear you, Greg. You're unmuted, but we still can't hear you.
Nope. Now you're muted.
Okay, you are unmuted now, but the sound is not coming through.
Right in front of the computer.
There we go. There we go.
Can you hear it?
Yeah.
All right. It's all about position, I think. Well, thanks, everybody, and thanks for giving me an opportunity to relive the last 20 years of my volunteer work at Green Mountain Scenic Byway. And this is pretty much going to be a 20-year history given in about 10 minutes or less. I'm going to put my screen, share my screen, and get the slideshow going. Can everybody see the screen and still hear me?
Not yet. Not seeing the screen yet.
Not yet?
Not yet. Joe, you have quite the background going on there.
Okay, let me know if you do see it. Anyway, and I'll just get going anyways. Let me make sure I've done it the right way.
Still not seeing it, Greg.
All right, let me get back to
there we go. Looks like it's coming. Yeah,
all right.
Now we see it. Yep.
Now that should do it. All right.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. One of the big things that an awful lot of people think about Scenic Byway, which is, suitable particularly for this talk is that we build trails. And actually the Scenic Byway is the state designation of existing roadways. We're not road builders. We have been trail builders, but that's not necessarily, what we specialize in. Each Scenic Byway is really different. And we're one of the most different in Florida because we essentially established ourselves through the middle of a bunch of burnt out orange groves in central Lake County. And so we really had to build the recreational opportunities and everything else. But once we get that state designation, we have the opportunity to look for grant money. And actually the whole Florida Scenic Highway program really existed because the federal's DOT really supported us for the first, I think up until about 2010. So our mission is not that much different than the South Lake Chamber. In fact, I've been calling ourselves lately the Green Mountain Scenic Chamber of Commerce, as we try to link travelers and visitors to the businesses along the byway. We started off, and I'll see if you can look at my mouse. We started off from the Lake Orange County boundary, and we went, and it's not going to look, we only went up to Howey Heights, which is right near where the bigger roundabout is. And then the town of Oakland liked us, so we extended a couple of miles into Oakland. Winter Garden liked us, and we extended out to Winter Garden. And then Mount Dora wanted to see what we could do, and so we finally extended up to Mount Dora. The history of trails, in fact, I learned an awful lot as I was, going through and rebuilding this presentation from a number of different ones. But I started off thinking that the history of trails was just about the Lake Apopka cleanup and abandoned railroads. And then I found out that the South Lake Trail was the first one established in the area, and that was in '91. But when you look at the history of trails, particularly here, we're looking at the economics of the bass fishing from Lake Apopka, and there were all kinds of fish camps around the boundaries, and it was actually really generating a bunch of income for the community. And then you think about the revenues generated by the railroads shipping out the vegetables and the citrus, and then all of a sudden, as you can see through this litany, that all of a sudden Lake Apopka died and the railroads died. Winter Garden was pretty much just nothing until the West Orange Trail was established. Even the history of the trails across the area have changed pretty significantly. And if you look at the upper right, and your screen might be half blocking it, but you can see Lake Apopka. And the original idea of recovering Lake Apopka was to flood the whole North Shore. In fact, as we were getting closer and closer, putting in trails, closer into the mid-2000s, we're really worried that they were going to blow the dike and flood that whole area and take the recreational opportunities away. And so from 2000, Friends of Lake Apopka put this presentation together. And then in just a couple of years, Friends of Lake Apopka put another presentation together. And then you can see the actual genesis of the first trails going across the North Shore. And what you can't see in some of the fine print is along the west side here in Lake County, they had planned to have some kind of a lakeside venue, right around Ferndale. They couldn't have known what was out there, and Green Mountain was able to work with the county and work with some other agencies, and we were able to help the county buy 192 acres of waterfront property just north of Ferndale called the Ferndale Preserve. So this is kind of how all that all the different trail systems were kind of conceptualized 20 years ago. The North Shore restoration history. When I was first out there in my previous life as an environmental consultant, and I was able to count 7 different crop dusters flying at the same time. And that was in the mid 80s. So by 98, Jim Thomas and his group was able to convince the state to buy out all the farmers for $100 million. That same year, they had a Christmas bird count that was the largest number of species in the inland area. And then that next, well, in a couple of weeks, they had massive bird deaths from pesticide contamination. I was out there on a monthly basis with St. John's. We were doing bird watching studies as they were managing the different cells, raising and lowering the water levels. They wanted to see what the impact of the birds were, but you had to have a special access to get out there because the pesticide problem was not completely identified, and in some spots the pesticides were so high that they were really potentially a problem for opening it up to the general public. And then they brought in huge farm tractors and turned the soil over in about 2007, and then decided that it might possibly be clean enough for people. And once that rumor started spreading around, then anybody and everybody, like Friends of Lake Apopka and Sierra Club, 3 different Audubon groups in Green Mountain jumped in trying to establish those trails. Actually, and I'm sorry the background doesn't quite work that cleanly with the text, but it took us a long time. We're not fully established marketing and grant writing organizations. We all learn on the go. We missed 2 different grant cycles because we just didn't have a cost for what this scenic overlook and trail system might be. We were at a state scenic byway meeting in Bradenton, and actually we wrote out the whole process on the proverbial cocktail napkin. My friend Glenn Burns, who died a couple of years ago, went off to talk with the state DOT to see if they might be able to have some money. And Glenn sent me to another guy who was a consultant for the state to see if he might be able to help us put together preliminary designs. And then after the meeting, we got those 2 guys together, and we got about $60,000 to do the preliminary design.
Greg, sorry, one second. In case folks haven't seen this in person before, what is the background? Can you just describe what the background is?
I'm sorry. The background is the Green Mountain Scenic Overlook, and it's just north of Ferndale and south of the little roundabout at the bottom of the hill. And it kind of Sugarloaf Mountain overlooks the byway. What it is, it's a long deck, maybe 80, 90 feet, and it's got a tower about 40 feet up above the ground. It was supposed to be a little bit higher. They installed it a couple of feet lower down the hill. And so when you get out to the overlook, you can see the pump house across the North Shore, but not as much as what we really were hoping for. So this is actually the primary facility that's out there. We've got bathrooms, we've got picnic tables, and we've got a switchback trail that gets down to the railroad bed to go out into the 20,000 acres of the Lake Apopka North Shore.
And from this point, Greg, we can go on the trail all the way over to Magnolia Park in Ocoee, or following the trail system, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And we cited this with the idea that this is going to be a trailhead, but at the time, Hancock Road, which is still in process, was going to connect up, and I've got some slides to show that. So right now it's a trailhead without any further trail connections, but we cited it, and we worked with everybody else to make sure that it was just going to be a byway connecting up and finishing off the Lake Apopka Loop Trail.
This is Pat from the city of Mineola. We're still committed on when we build out to connecting to that. So we're putting a trailhead at the park of Sugarloaf Mountain, and then we plan on connecting all the way through to that trail. So that is something that it's in our plan. So we plan on getting you all the way from Hancock, from Claremont, all the way out there. So the builder will be doing that.
Thank you. Yeah, and one of the problems is St. John's had all the 20,000 acres, but they had just a tiny sliver of land that that connected up to 455, and they didn't have any connection out on the Orange County side. So Green Mountain and Friends of Lake Apopka and some other groups and Audubon talked with Orange County to actually get that connection built. And then we had a kickoff meeting in Montverde for, and at that time we called it the Clay Island Trailhead. We went down to Orange County, and we had no idea that we were one vote shy of actually getting the trail from St. John's property all the way to the West Orange Trail. Everything happened so fast that they threw up the vote to do the entire connection, and then it was voted down. But then they came right back 2 minutes later and okayed the connection from St. John's property to Magnolia Park. And then we visited Magnolia Park and outlined where the trail was going to be, and then we had the Clay Island charrette in Montverde to try to figure out how we were going to use that little sliver of land from 455 and connect out to the trails of the North Shore area. This picture is interesting because the group bike shot was actually the first bicycle ride across the North Shore, and 2/3 of those folks in that picture are all St. John's Water Management District employees. So they were absolutely all in on trying to get these trails built. David Graber, the consultant from Inwood that designed the preliminary plans, is in there. Mike Woods, that an awful lot of people know, are in there. And I'm kind of hidden in the back, but they were absolutely all in, gave us, full opportunity to do whatever we wanted to do. They just said that they weren't actually able to put any money in or really help us with the system. So from about 2008 to 2011, we were able to hit the grant cycle, and Lake County gave us 20%. And so we got the last National Scenic Byway grant of $855,000 to build the facility. Even though the facility was built, this is a couple of pictures of the railroad bed going out to the Clay Island area. And I got to tell you, I was absolutely scared to death, because even though the overlook was built, we still did not have the right of way on the railroad bed to connect that trail. And I was a member, vice chair and chair of the Lake County Land Acquisition Advisory Committee. And 5 or 6 years before we ever got to this point, we had all of the parcels given to the Lake County attorney to try to seek ownership of these properties, and they just couldn't get around to it. And finally we had the overlook and nowhere to go. And at the last minute, they secured all the rights of way and started building the trail. We had the first ribbon cutting in 2014 for the Scenic Overlook. If you see Leslie Campione in the blue and the red, just to the left of her, the tall guy, Glenn Burns, is the heart and soul of Green Mountain, and he died a couple of years ago. But he was absolutely phenomenal. And one of the things that he figured out in writing this grant is that one of the keys for the National Scenic Byway is they wanted to see an overlook. And they wanted to see an overlook, and the overlook gave you so many extra points in getting this thing done. And so he and I wrote the grant, and we put this overlook in there, and that's why we got the nearly $1 million to get this going. It took another 2 years for St. John's to finish the trail, and it's about 2 miles from the bottom of the overlook out to the old airport runway out on the Clay Island area. So 2 miles of trail, and it's all crushed lime rock. Took a bit of time to get that done, but those were the 2 ribbon cuttings. And this is, as we look to the future, and there was made a comment that right now it's the trail head, And what we're going to be doing is working to connect it. The picture on the left is one of 3 different versions as we were identifying what the potential facility was going to look like. And right now, that little circle going straight south, that's actually the connection to 455. We always plan to have a spur break off to a side road off of a roundabout as soon as the Sugarloaf Mountain development was going to get going. We really tried to have the smallest footprint because this area had so many native plants that we just didn't want to destroy all the great plants and environment that were out there. So as soon as that roundabout can be built and as soon as Hancock Road can be built, then we'll be cutting off the connection to 455 and actually go into Sugarloaf Mountain. And I've talked with the Sugarloaf Mountain developer a couple of different times, kind of warning him that this place is so popular with cars and people that often enough you can't get your car in there. And I mentioned to him a couple times that whoever is planning on which businesses or homes are going to be in that particular area, they better plan on having some kind of parking because here with, I don't know, 5,000 homes, 10,000 homes, something like that, this is really going to be the last beacon of green that's going to connect that part of suburbia out to the 20,000 acres. And then if I can get this to go. This is the next big project that we're working on. I actually thought I was going to have all the plans and the potential funding in place by this summer, and that little thing called COVID kind of put it behind us. It took us 12, 15 years to actually get this built, and little do we know the trees grow in time. And so when we first designed it, we were able to see way out over Lake Apopka. And by the time we put the tower up, we couldn't really see as much as we wanted to. And so just as soon as we had the first piece built, we wanted to put a potential 40-foot taller tower out there. This is a rendering that the architect engineer that designed the first tower, he took those same drawings and conceptualized what the additional tower was going to look like. Play this if I can one more time, and then I'm done. This tower, we're planning to be opposite on the other side of the deck of the existing one, not at the end of it. But the big thing about this rendering is it really shows the scale. What it doesn't show is that we're going to have an elevator there because the deck is ADA compliant. Everything on top of that deck also has to be ADA compliant. So we're going to have to figure out an elevator system that's going to go up to the top. But I think this is going to be, absolutely astounding when we finally get it up there. And all I got to do is raise about another $600,000 to get it built.
Fantastic.
And that's my presentation. And that was 20 years of history in what, like 10, 15 minutes or so.
Well, thank you, Greg. And again, hopefully you'll stick around for questions at the end.
Sure.
Just, a personal commentary note, if you have not visited the Green Mountain Scenic Overlook there, it is definitely worth the trip. It is absolutely gorgeous. And looking out over the deck that Greg was showing us the pictures of, I mean, it's a different part of Florida that is in our backyard, and if we haven't taken advantage of it, you certainly should do that. So, all right, our next speaker is Joe Dunn with Friends of Lake Apopka. And Joe, if you would tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Friends of Lake Apopka, and again, we'll try to keep it to 10 to 15 minutes, and we'll move on after that. So, Joe, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity. I want to take a couple of quick thank yous because Clinton Pownell introduced me to a guy named David Colby, and David Colby was kind enough to invite me last October to do a brief summary at the breakfast meeting. And at that breakfast meeting, I met some guy named Daniel Whitehouse, who has been a tireless supporter of the Friends of Lake Apopka. So thank you to all of you. Friends of Lake Apopka, as Greg said, was founded by Jim Thomas in 1991 with a focus on restoring the lake to its pristine condition. And just like Green Mountain, FOLA's evolved as the lake's been restored. We're not there yet, but we've made huge progress. I mean, huge progress. You cannot pollute a lake for 50 years and then get well in 20. And if you want to hear more about that, next Thursday, October 8th, Dr. Eric Marzoff from the district is going to give a presentation on the current state of the lake and the plans for going forward to finish the restoration efforts. If you go to fola.org, the information for that Zoom meeting is on our website. So in the promotional capability, we partnered with Orange Audubon. The North Shore has become a birding mecca, and that's attracting people and ecotourists to the area. The cycling has started to become a destination, and I'm going to talk about that specifically on the next two quick slides. And then the third element is fishing and boating. And that's the resurgence of game fish, the resurgence of the submerged aquatic vegetation is going to attract people to the lake. And Daniel and I are working on an event next year that will highlight that. So we're very fortunate to have Ron Hart, the Executive Director of Lake County Water Authority, on our board of directors. So Lake County's involved, especially since Daniel's joined the team. If we go to the next chart. So you saw on that last map that there is a loop of trails around Lake Apopka, the North Shore, which Greg talked about, Lake Apopka Loop Trail, my happy place. There's got the big U on the underside with West Orange Trail, South Lake Trail, and the Hancock Road Trail. The problem is when you try to get from one to the other. So in 2017, FOLA started a bike ride around Lake Apopka with the express purpose of raising awareness about the restoration of the lake, raising awareness about these amazing trails that we have, and raising awareness about connecting those trails. The very first bike ride, we did it on a shoestring. We got 65 people to show up, and there were two important riders. Brian Nelson and Betsy Vanderlei, who were at the time were Orange County commissioners, rode from Winter Garden to Magnolia Park. And in order to get up there, you had to ride on Apopka Road, which is very dangerous. They immediately got on the sidewalk and rode the sidewalk all the way up to Magnolia Park. And they immediately became the champions to connecting West Orange Trail to Magnolia Park. So right after that, we started a campaign because Metro Plan Orlando held all the funds. And we got the state senator, West Orange Chamber of Commerce, every mayor along that side of the lake, Winter Garden, Oakland, Ocoee, Apopka. We had a great grassroots campaign that raised the priority of connecting West Orange Trail to Magnolia Park from number 40 to number 3 in less than a year. The money was allocated. Betsy Vanderlei, Commissioner Vanderlei, was also the chair of Metro Plan Orlando that year. And she worked with Matt Sudemeyer, the head of Parks and Recreation for Orange County. And they did some pretty amazing things in terms of getting the funding, but they also went off and worked with the city of Apopka to annex a couple of acres on the south side of Magnolia Park to the county, and the county purchased that land to give us a natural access into Magnolia Park. So it was a very complicated thing with a lot of moving parts, and a lot of people made that happen. And just last month, we got the preliminary engineering and design contract awarded to WBQ. And the Orange County also just opened a little section that connects Ocoee, or Claycona Ocoee Road, which is part of the Coast to Coast Connector, with a what you call bike lane on the road to West Orange Trail. So when we get this connected trail system, it's going to sit literally on the Coast to Coast Connector. I call it the cherry on top of the ice cream sundae. So that process has started. The east side's going to be connected in the next maybe 2-3 years, and we're really pumped up about that. One other side note, on the North Shore, Lake County, Bobby Bonilla and Gauss Quigley have got signs ready, cycling signs. So when you're a cyclist, you got your head down, your tongue's dragging on the ground, you're just trying to make it the next mile, your eyesight is at 3 feet. So to let somebody know that they're on the Lake Apopka Loop Trail, signs need to be at 3 feet. Lake County's established those signs. We worked with the district and we worked with Orange County Parks and Recreation, and Orange County is going to put the exact same signs all the way across that North Shore. So in the next 6 months or so, you should see some really nice signage to let people know that they are indeed on the Lake Apopka Loop Trail. Which,
Joe, you referred to the district a couple times. Can you tell us which district we're talking about there?
Thanks so much, Daniel. It's the St. Johns River Water Management District, which is responsible for managing the entire North Shore. And if you've ever been up there on the North Shore cycling, there are literally dozens of miles of trails. So it's kind of important to stay on the Lake Apopka Loop Trail unless you're out for a 50-mile ride. So that signage is going to be a big step forward coming up. Now, if we move over to the west side, which Greg's already started to talk about, once we got Betsy Commissioner Vandalay in Orange County on board and we were making the connection on the east side happen, she reached out to her colleague, Commissioner Breeden, and said, you know, here's what we're doing. You guys should look at this. So I went and met with Commissioner Breeden, and we had a little brainstorming session with Fred Schneider, Public Works, and Bobby Bonilla, and said, okay, well, this is going to happen eventually, but is there anything that we can do to accelerate the process? So we came up with a conceptual framework of a public-private partnership between the county, the state, and the developers who already had skin in the game. So the first test of that was we went to the state to see if we could get some money, and Representative Sabatini was wildly enthusiastic, Senator Baxley, wildly enthusiastic, and we worked with them to create the legislative language, put it in as a bill last year. The Lake County made it a legislative priority, not a top priority, but a priority. And I have to commend Chris Carmody, the Lake County lobbyist. He treated it as a top priority. I worked very closely with him. We went to all the appropriation subcommittees, all the appropriations committees, staffers, and worked very hard to get the awareness raised about it. We asked for $3 million. We got $650K through the legislature. It went to the governor, and everybody knows what happened. $1 billion of cuts were needed. And once it got to the governor's desk, we did an intensive campaign of letter writing, but very focused. The chamber wrote a letter to the governor saying this is important, you shouldn't cut it. The two key cycling organizations in the state, Florida Bicycle Association and Bike Florida, both chimed in. An out-of-town tour company, Adventure Cycling, nationally known out of Montana, joined in and said people will come from all over the country to ride this loop when you finish it. Green Mountain and also the Rails to Trails Conservancy jumped in. So we waged a very effective campaign, but it was just situational. And Senator Baxley and Representative Sabatini are adamant that that was situational. They both plan to submit the exact same legislation. It's already written. We already have a one-pager. We've partnered with Friends of Lake County Trails and Mike Stevens, who's going to talk in just 2 seconds, to make sure that within the context of the overall trail master plan, that we're staying in consonance with that. And I would love to see the county commissioners make this one of the 8 top priorities going forward to the legislature in March. And then lastly, the bike ride that we started 5 years ago, unfortunately, we're going to do virtually this year. We do it in November on Veterans Day weekend, and money we collect, we contribute to a local veterans organization. This year, we're just going to ask people to make a contribution to FOLA and go out and ride one of the great trails that we have without a mass start, without a big party of crooked can afterwards, and without t-shirts. So that's my 10 minutes.
Thank you, Joe. And just for clarity, once that little section is connected, Orange County is already in progress. And so now on the Lake County side, once that little section is connected, that entire 40-mile loop around the lake will exist all on trail. There will be no road that anybody will have to get on. That's the crux of it, right?
And people will come from all over the country. As an avid cyclist, Mike's an avid cyclist. We travel, we spend money. People will come here to ride that trail because riders collect trail rides like birders collect bird lists.
All right, thank you very much.
They're already coming.
So, okay, our third speaker is Mike Stevens, again, on the committee from Lake 100 that is focused on trails. And, you know, we've heard a lot about connections already, you know, as Greg was talking about and as Joe was talking about. And Mike, I know your initiative has been very, very focused on connections. So if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and the committee and initiative, we would appreciate it. Mike Stevens.
Sure, thank you. I am Mike Stevens. I'm the chairman of the Lake 100 Trails Committee. I'm also a member of the Lake Sumter MPO Citizens Advisory Committee, as well as the Lake County Parks and Trails Committee. Back in November of 2019, Lake 100, the Chamber Alliance, and League of Cities put on a trails symposium focused on the economic benefits and quality of life improvements offered by multi-use trails. During that same time frame, Lake 100 started the Trails Committee to follow up on the ideas and the information presented at that November meeting last year. And then after that, the Trails Committee and Lake 100 started the Friends of Lake County Trails User Group, which we used contact information gathered at that November meeting. The Friends of Lake County Trails Group has started a Facebook page and to help disseminate information, as well as an email user group. And to date, we currently have over 600 individuals as part of the email group and or following that Facebook page. The Lake 100 Trails Committee has numerous members working with different municipalities. And since November, we've been meeting with and working with, through those trail liaisons, the local municipalities and cities to come up with and formulate a cohesive plan that works for all the different cities and addresses all their needs. And since then, we've come up with, we reviewed the Lake County Trails Master Plan, which you see on your screen now. This identifies all the different trails within Lake County that were put in the master plan as it was updated in 2018. That process was an 18 to 24 month process, and the consultants went around to all the different municipalities, talked to them about their local trails, talked to them about what they needed, what they wanted to see in their area, and came up with this Trails Master Plan. Since then, the Trails Committee has decided to focus on regional trails. And we've done that for a number of reasons, primarily economic benefit wise. There's been numerous studies done on regional trails that show that people will travel further, stay longer, and spend more money in your community for these longer regional trails. On average, the average day user is going to spend about twice as much as the local resident. And an overnight user is going to spend about 8 times as much coming to your community, spending money in your community to use these trails. So if you go to the next slide, please. These are the 4 regional trails that we're focused on, and I'll go into each one of those individually here in a second. The Trails Committee submitted a request to the Lake County Board of County Commissioners back in May 2020 to focus on these 4 regional trails and to develop planning studies for these trails and feasibility studies and PD&E studies to move these trails from conceptual to plan so that they can be eligible for additional funding through federal and state sources. A lot of these trails are conceptual in nature and they need planning studies done first. The DOT kind of goes through a process where they do feasibility studies initially to identify right-of-ways and any conflicts, and then do what's called a project development and environmental study after that. And then it moves to right-of-way design and then construction. So DOT used to pay for those studies and they no longer pay for those studies. So right now we're focused on trying to get those studies done and move these trails from conceptual ideas to planned trails so that they can move forward into design and construction so that the economic impact and the quality of life benefits, we can move those forward. Before I do that, the Lake County adopted the final budget just a couple of days ago, and in that final budget, they did include $450,000 for trail studies. In addition, numerous cities have budgeted funds for trail studies next year, including Eustis, Umatilla, Leesburg, and some others. In addition, Lake County Public Works is reviewing the possibility of bringing a lot of those trail studies in-house and having them done by staff engineers. So we're actively trying to find different ways to get these trail studies done as quickly and as effectively and as economically feasible as quickly as possible. So to focus on the 4 regional trails that we're talking about, the first of which is the Wekiva Trail. On the slide, that's the orange east-west trail noted as B. It's called the Wekiva Trail. This trail is actually currently being built along the Wekiva Expressway all the way from Seminole County into Sorrento right now. And actually the trail connection is being made to the West Orange Trail just south of the Wekiva Trail. It's going to connect to the West Orange Trail. That's being built right now. Ultimately, this trail will connect downtown Mount Dora, downtown Tavares, downtown Leesburg, all to Seminole County, Orange County, and actually to the Coast to Coast Trail via the West Orange Trail connection. This is obviously a major east-west trail going through the heart of Lake County, affecting Tavares, Leesburg, Mount Dora, and so forth. Recently, Lake County, the city of Mount Dora, the city of Tavares all applied for a $25 million build grant to finish the section from Sorrento into downtown Tavares. Unfortunately, we just got the word that was not successful, but we're still actively trying to find those funds to go ahead and finish that piece. That piece has already gone through all the feasibility studies, the PD&E studies, and bridge studies, and other things from the old railroad right-of-way. And all we're lacking right now is the right-of-way acquisition funds to go ahead and get that purchased so that that trail can be built. There's a plan to go ahead and apply for another grant next year, and hopefully that can be done within the next few years. The second regional trail is noted on the map as A. It's called the North Lake, or also known as the River to Hills Trail. This trail will connect actually to 2 state trails currently being built, the Heart of Florida Loop that's going to go around Lake County and Orange County, and the Coast to Coast, which is being built down in South Lake, which I'll get to in a minute. This trail will also connect south to the North Shore Lake Apopka project that we've been talking about this morning, as this is part of that trail. The North Hancock extension, you can see on the southern side, that's been built all the way up almost to the Green Mountain connector. So once that's connected to the Lake Shore North Shore Apopka project, that'll be part of this River to Hills Trail going up through Eustis and Umatilla and ultimately down to Claremont and that area. The upper northernmost portion's already been studied from Astor down to Umatilla, and there's no right-of-way acquisition that's needed for that phase. That's a 22-mile section of trail that's going to be built all on public lands that's already publicly owned. We're trying to get the PD&E study done as quickly as possible. Lake County's working with us on that, trying to get funds to get that done so we can go ahead and get that 22-mile section built. The city of Tavares is City of Tavares and City of Eustis have both, their commissions have voted to prioritize their section of trail as it comes through Eustis and it comes through Tavares, and also they're budgeting funds to do their studies as well. So hopefully we can get this trail connected as quickly as possible down to the Lake Apopka North Shore area, and then down to North Hancock, and ultimately to the Coast to Coast, and then further south. The next one, the next regional trail is C, which is the Coast to Coast, which I think most folks are familiar with down in South Lake. This trail is currently being built with the state of Florida with funds from the Sun Trail program, which is vehicle registration dollars. Ultimately, it'll be about a 275-mile trail that'll link the east and west coast of Florida from Titusville to Clearwater. And it's estimated that it'll bring about $120 million in economic impact annually to the state of Florida. The Lake County sections include the South Lake and Mineola Trail down in South Lake. Claremont's been working hard to link their downtown to the Coast to Coast through their Meet in the Middle program. I know they're building local trails to try to get folks into downtown. And they're already reporting they've had 19 new businesses open in downtown in 2019 and had a 17% increase in their commercial tax base in 2019. Just to give you an idea of the connections through the Coast to Coast further west from South Lake, the South Lake Phase 3B is scheduled to go to construction in 2024. South Lake Phase 4, continuing west, is scheduled to go to construction in 2025. The State Road 50 project going through Groveland is currently being designed. The South Sumter Trail is scheduled for construction in 2023, and the South Sumter Connector Trail over to the Withlacoochee Trail is currently in the PD&E phase. So that one's moving quickly, and the Coast to Coast are trying to get that done as quickly as possible. I've ridden the Withlacoochee the last few weekends, and you can actually go from Withlacoochee over to the Good Neighbor, then over to the Sun Coast, and then down to Pinellas Trail very easily with just some short road connections right now, and all those are being melded together to finish that coast to coast. The fourth regional trail we're focused on is the green trail labeled D on the map. This is known as a Lake Ridge Trail. Again, this is a conceptual trail running from the west side of Lake County, connecting Marion County, Lake County, including the Leesburg area, the villages, Lady Lake and Fruitland Park, all the way down to Polk County. Includes various sections in Lake County, including the Gardenia Trail, which has already been planned, the Lake Denham Trail, which we're trying to focus on planning studies on that to get that done as quickly as possible. The Lake Denham Trail is the piece that goes south down to the villages property that was just purchased down in Leesburg, trying to connect that trail over to the villages. Leesburg's already budgeted funds to update the PD&E on the Tab Lee section, which is also going to connect to the Wekiva Trail to finish that connection so that the Wekiva Trail will go all the way from Seminole and Orange County all the way over through Leesburg. Those are the four regional trails that we're really focused on and trying to drive them forward in terms of getting them through the planning stages, getting them through the conceptual stage to the plan stage so that we can then get money for actual design and construction to move them forward. If you could go to the next slide, please.
Mike, sorry, 1 second, if we can just stay here real quick.
Okay.
Sorry. You know, obviously it takes a lot of coordination on those master plans for everybody to be engaged and involved and you know, basically sign on to accepting those. So from your work and the committee's work, are you seeing that the acceptance among the, you know, the various stakeholders, like the cities and, you know, any of the other landholders or whatnot has been mostly positive? I mean, people are adopting the concept, they're grabbing onto it.
Yes, we do, very much so. Like I said, we have trail liaisons that meet with the individual cities, and the cities have already gone so far as to vote these trail priorities and request the MPO to move them up on the priority list. Tavares and Eustis and Leesburg have been very active in that, as well as Umatilla. And Claremont obviously has a coast to coast, and they're working very hard with their section down there. So there's been no negative at all. I think everybody's really latching on to the fact of the economic benefit that these trails provide. It's not just a quality of life thing. It's an economic benefit thing. You can look at Winter Garden, you can look at Denellen, you can look at Inverness and what they're doing. Inverness just spent a ton of money redoing their trail area with a new depot and 2 new parks down there in Inverness and so forth. It's a huge economic driver. And I'm going to get to that just in a second, but no, everything has been very, very positive from all the cities, all the stakeholders, everyone we've discussed it with. Everybody is on board. The county commission has embraced it. All the county commissioners have spoke favorably about it. At this point, it's a matter of funding and finding those funding sources and getting them budgeted and getting everything moving forward. And we're working hard with them to do that. And the county did budget $450,000 out of sales tax this year to try to do that. And they're open to the idea of looking at it again if sales tax recovers quickly enough. See what happens with sales tax. They might be able to put more money in that area as well. So everything has been very, very positive so far. So this slide just gives you an idea of the Lake County regional trails centered in Lake County, and then what's happening around us with the money that's being invested in trails through other counties. A lot of counties use their penny sales tax. They use taxing districts. They use a lot of different funding vehicles to build these trails. And obviously the state of Florida is using the Sun Trail funds, which is your vehicle registration tax dollars. This just gives you an idea of 2 major state trails that circle and bisect Lake County. The first of which being the Heart of Florida Loop, which the River to Hills Trail is going to connect to in Astor and then bring it all the way down to the coast to coast as a north-south connection. And then the Wekiva Trail is going to intersect with the Heart of Florida Loop as well over east of here. And then the blue highlighted area is the actual coast to coast. And a lot of that's been built, and a lot of the section, the biggest gap is actually in Lake County and Sumter County. And a lot of that has been committed to funding just recently. And a lot of that's going to construction in 2023, 24, and 25. So that coast to coast is going to get done quickly. A lot of the Heart of Florida Loop has already been built. The Withlacoochee Trail is already there. The Denellen Trail has turned to go east. A lot of the Cross Florida Greenway has been paved already. 16 miles of that has been done. The section near Pruitt's being studied right now. The Blackberry Scenic Byway is being studied right now. Springs Trail's already been built. So a lot of these statewide trails are being built, and we're just trying to focus on the regional connections within Lake County to get us over those state trails to bring in that economic benefit, because again, people that come and stay overnight are going to spend 8 times as much as a local user just that lives here. They want to come and they want to use these long distance trails. They want to stay overnight. They want to stay in our area. They want to come and eat dinner, that kind of thing. So really focused on that economic benefit and what that's going to bring to us. But just to give you an update on there's a very extremely important meeting October 13th, and I'd like to invite everybody to come to that place. The Lake County Board of County Commissioners is going to have a trails presentation. We've been working with the Director of Public Works, Mr. Fred Snyder, trying to put together a plan of work and a scope of work for the next 5 years of the county, focused on getting these trails moved forward. He's going to give that presentation on October 13th at the normal Board of County Commissioners meeting there in Tavares. It's going to be a time certain presentation. He's going to give it at around 11 a.m. If they're not still discussing something else, it'll be shortly after 11. But Chairman Campion is committed to do a break at 10:50 to allow us to come into the meeting. And I'd like to get as many people there. If you're comfortable being face to face with people, please come. And if you can't, please attend it on Zoom. I'm sure they track that as well. We really want to get in front of the commissioners and show them our support, give them our support. They need that support to move these things forward, and the staff that support to move these things forward. So as many people as we can. Don't get discouraged. I'm hoping we have a packed house. I'm hoping not everybody can get in, but I want them to see and understand that commitment that the county has for these trails, and see those 600 people that are on the Facebook page, that are on the email blast group, and that kind of thing. It makes a difference. Those folks are voters. Those folks want to see their tax money used in a way that can help bring in additional economic development to the county. So please, if you can, please plan on coming to that meeting October 13th. In terms of legislative priorities, obviously we're working with the Friends of Lake County, or Friends of Lake Apopka group to pick up what they've been doing over the last several years for the North Hancock to Lakeshore connection to the Green Mountain Scenic Connector to connect North Hancock up to Lake Apopka. So that's our #1 priority this year as we go up to the session. And number 2, another legislative priority. Lake County Commissioner Parks brought forward a proposal to allow the counties that have less than $10 million in tourist development taxes each year to allow them to use that money for planning studies, because right now we can't do that. We tried this year, Commissioner Parks tried, and the County Commission tried to do that and help us with those funds. But there's a Florida statute out there that won't allow them to do that because we don't have over $10 million in tourist development tax. So Commissioner Parks has brought that to the Florida Association of Counties, and they're picking that up as a legislative priority. And we're picking that up as well to try to move that forward so that we have access to another set of funds that can help fund these planning studies so that we can get them eligible for additional federal and state grants for the design and construction and ultimate completion of the regional trails. And just to focus a minute, if I've got another minute, just on the economic impact of trails, we're really trying to get that word out. I think people know it intuitively, but we're trying to get some facts out in the sense that these things are important. It's not just a quality of life anymore. It is an economic driver for the community, especially if you've been on the trails during the COVID deal or in a bike shop during COVID. You can't find a bike. You can't get a bike repaired. You can't find parts. They are sold out. People have taken biking back up and hiking and walking, and the trails have been packed. I ride around Lake Apopka all the time using the North Shore on the north side and West Orange on the south side, and the West Orange Trail down through Winter Garden is crazy. It's hard to get through. There's so many people out and trying to get exercise and trying to be healthy and using those trails. And it's just important we get the economic impact message out there. That just a few key stats. The National Home Builders Association has determined that trails add value to new homes and are consistently among the top 4 community amenities sought by prospective homeowners of all ages. They're always in the top 4 that people are looking for when they're going to build a home. The National Board of Realtors concluded that Trails add value to homes that are located in or near a trail area, and the value increases from 10 to 20% over similar homes in close proximity to trails. In Central Florida, that number's around 5 or 6%. So in other areas, as high as 20%. In 2015, it's a little dated, but the Balmora Group did an economic impact study for the city of Mount Dora for the potential Wekiva Trail impacts. And just the Wekiva Trail connecting to Mount Dora was going to bring in $7.9 million in economic impact to the city of Mount Dora and support 114 different jobs. In 2019, a more current study, the Cross Florida property, the old Cross Florida Barge Canal property. I'm not sure if you know it or not, but it has over 85 miles of mountain bike trails, 16 miles of paved trails, numerous equestrian trails, and that's a big piece of the Heart of Florida Loop. And just that annually, it's a state park, and it's the top #1 state park for providing economic impact to the state of Florida, and a lot of that's in Marion County, and it provides over $264 million in economic impact to the state of Florida, and again, most of that is in Marion County.
Mike, I think we probably need to pause there. I want to give a moment or two for, we have Commissioner Parks on the call here, and I'd like, his name was mentioned a few times. I'd like to have him speak for a moment, in particular, with the meeting on the 13th coming up, if he's got any thoughts to share there. And I know we have a hard stop at 8:30, so Commissioner Parks, maybe about 2 or 3 minutes, and I think we'll have to share contact info for our speakers today for any follow-up questions that we may have, so we can be respectful of everybody's time and get out on time. So, Commissioner Parks?
Yeah, hey, thank you, Daniel. Good morning, and I will definitely keep it brief and just say that you've really heard from four really rock stars of trails in all of Lake County. Mike Stevens and Greg and Joe for sure are the doers for this vision of trying to connect the trails from North Lake to South Lake, and we're happy to have our friends from North Lake most recently be a part of this and helping us with what we know works and economically and in protecting our quality of life with trails in all of Lake County, and definitely trying to remember what Glenn Burns has done. I'm glad Greg brought that up as well, everything that he's been doing. Just really to cap off what's important is funding, because there's so much competition for a county commission budget as there are from city budgets as well. We're growing so fast, 1,000 people a day you hear coming to Florida, many coming to this region. Everybody wants trails, but there's people that want other things as well. There's some people that think that we spend too much money. There's some people that think we don't spend enough money. So there's a lot of competition, a lot of pressures right now in our budgets. To make this vision a reality, it really does come down at this point to how we're going to pay for it. And Mike has mentioned something that's is important and I think will help us right now, and that is advocating for that change to Florida statutes allowing Lake County to be able to spend money from tourist development tax dollars. That is the heads and beds tax, 4% in Lake County. Using that money, being allowed to use that money to fund PD&E and feasibility studies, which sometimes can cost $800,000 to $1 million, depending upon the size of the project. And really, that's the first step. That's the frustration and bureaucracy that people think about and hear about when it comes to getting the trails. Everybody wants the trails done now, but it takes a couple of years to get these studies done and funded and then going. So we have to have a funding formula. We have to have a funding mechanism, if you will, or a plan to fund trails in Lake County long term. We do not right now. It's done through grants. It's done through the county. One year giving out $540,000 or maybe $2 million out of sales tax. So it's done very year to year. There is no long-term plan to fund trails in Lake County done locally. We're reliant entirely upon sales tax. Sales tax revenues, by the way, unfortunately, are down this year, and we're anticipating them to go down again next year as well. We don't know what property values will do, so how are we going to fund some of these studies, or maybe even construction out of a county general fund that only has about a 10% reserve right now, is a concern. Yes, we'll partner with some of the cities as well, but these can be very expensive projects. So the question of the day is, can we all come together to come up with some kind of long-term funding plan? Part of that would be the TDT tax. So I'd ask the chamber to support via letter. I'd ask the cities to support maybe through resolutions this request to the state to change the statute to allow us to use TDT, Tourist Development Tax, to fund these studies. That would probably be a very good first start. We could also look at some point, long-term what our sales tax can do for it, but I think we're a couple years handicapped on that as well. That is probably the most important thing to say. We do want all of our cities to sign on to the plan, to the master plan. So that's important as well, because we want everybody to be unified on that master plan. And other than that, way past my 2 minutes, I guess. So any other questions? But thank you guys.
Thank you, Sean. Daniel had to jump off, as well as our chair, Sherry Olson. But we did want to provide an opportunity. If our speakers would indulge us, we'll end this by 8:40. But I do want to give the opportunity for anybody on the call to ask a question of our speakers. Does anybody have any questions?
This is Pat from Mineola. Just to let you know, Del Webb is coming in to the end of Hancock, which is going to totally blow up. They've already presented a plan, so that connects to the next piece, which is the major road from Hancock to the 455, which is owned by Richland. So they'll be coming up shortly. So that piece will be coming up. What I didn't see on the plan is in our agreement with them, we will be doing a spur off of that to the top of Sugarloaf. For those who don't know, the top of Sugarloaf Mountain is actually in Mineola. So when you go up to the top of Sugarloaf and you make the left-hand turn, the 90-degree turn, we plan on having an overlook there. So we'll be having a trail, which I didn't see on any of the plans, go from the top of Mineola all the way down to the trail on Hancock. So that is another outpost, and that will be being built by the developer. But I did not see that on any of the proposed plans. So.
Thank you, Pat. Do any of our speakers have a comment on that? Would you like to make a comment, or we can take that offline as well?
They can reach out.
Yeah, and real quick, I mean, we can, you know, we work with any city, and we'll make sure that any kind of change or on the fly change that needs to be done to a master plan is certainly can be done. Master plans can be updated, and they are updated from time to time. And by the way, another funding mechanism is developer driven, but with that, the point there, and we ask developers, the county always asks developers as well as the cities do, to build these trails at their cost, and that's good, but that's only going to get us so far as well. So.
Has anyone considered, I'm sorry, my name is Gus, with regard to funding mechanisms, considering there's so much activity on the trail, all the rides that happen, stuff like that, is there any way that we could maybe leverage some kind of a registration, you know, I don't know if you would call it a tax, but, you know, a lot of these trails, so for a lot of trails that I ride, for example, rather the events that I ride, it might be like a $45, you know, paying for the ride or something like that. If $1 of that for every rider went into some fund, you know, to help cover the cost or something like that, is that something that's even doable? Is there like a tax for registered rides, where the private sector is essentially generating the activity, but there's sort of a tax that's put on for every registered rider? That could help fund some of this? Is that a thing? Is that something that's possible?
Commissioner Parks?
That has been looked into, and maybe Mike has some comments too on that, but I think that the state is not allowing us to do that right now, is to do a separate tax like that. You know, the state has, you know, some control, has a lot of control over taxation and how the cities and counties can tax, but I think you know, that's a good idea, and it has come up once or twice in the past, and we'll certainly explore it this year. But
states that kind of already exists through the tourist development tax for people coming here and staying here, so that's why we want to get access to those funds to be able to reinvest them in the trails. Because one of the things I was going to mention is that the Rails to Trails Conservancy calculated an average return of 7 to 1 on the cost to build the trails. You're going to get a 7% return on that annually. So to me, that's that's a terrific return for the investment. And again, that tax is kind of there through that tourist development tax already. So if we can get access to that and help reinvest that and you get a 7-to-1 return on it, that just helps us continue to build and leverage those trails.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Mandy, what's done?
Can I just make one comment real quick? So Mike Stevens and I are going to go sit down with incoming Commissioner Doug Shields at some point. But David, I would ask you, everybody in South Lake, the chamber down there, I'm sure as the alliance will move on it as Lake 100. But I think we have to integrate him very quickly into all of this. The other comment, I appreciate Commissioner Parks being here. Sometimes I say things not as diplomatically as Mike does. The commissioners are all yay trails. It's great. He's not wrong about the funding mechanism. So I want everybody to be aware there's a difference in them showing their support and them actually finding a way to fund this. And it's going to be a long-term project. So anything you all can do to help educate, Doug Shields on this would be, fantastic.
Thank you, Mandy. I appreciate that. I'm going to be meeting with him shortly, and I believe we can share this with him.
And if you could provide an introduction to him, that would be wonderful.
Excellent.
I don't know him personally.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
One last thing, Commissioner Parks, can you send out? You asked the cities to pass a resolution in support of your change.
Yeah.
Can you kind of draft something or have somebody draft something up to get it out to the cities? I don't mind pushing it through my city. I think it's a good idea, but if we can have some consistency, and if you want to organize that and get that to Mark, we'll put that on the agenda and pass that resolution. If you're going to send a packet up to somebody, okay?
Actually, Sean, if you can get that to maybe all of us, if you can get that to me, I'll get that out through League of Cities, through Al Minner City Managers Group, and Stevens will get that out too. We'll blast it out through Realtors Association, Chamber Alliance, everybody. If you can get something.
I will get working on that today. I'll work on it today.
Yeah,
thank you.
Great.
Okay. Do we have any final questions or comments? I'd like to wrap this up within the next 3 minutes. Anybody else?
If you'd like
just come on the 13th, please. Everybody come on October 13th, please, and share that information. Please share that information with your chambers, with all your connections, everybody.
Yeah. Can you just mention what that is on the 13th at the County Commission? Can you just talk about that real quickly, Mandy?
Stevens.
Yeah, it's a Board of County Commissioners normal meeting on October 13th. We're going to have that trail meeting, the presentation at 11 o'clock. Commissioner Campion is going to ask for a hard break at 10:50 so we can get into the meeting at 11, and then the presentation will be at 11 or shortly thereafter. It's the presentation that Fred Snyder's been working on for 3 months based on the letter that we gave the county commissioners back in May for the prioritization and the funding mechanisms, so that he's going to make that presentation to the Board of County Commissioners on what he believes the county can do over the next 3 or 4 or 5 years.
And Commissioner Parks, I just want to make you aware, we talked a little bit about legislative priorities for the county, certainly teaming up on this Green Mountain Connector and the TDC. That is a Chamber Alliance Lake 100 priority. We are asking the county, I know you guys are in transition with lobbyists and managers and commissioners, but we haven't had a chance to have this conversation with you. We're basically asking you guys in COVID budget to pick like 4 things, 4 things this year. And we do want the county to pick Green Mountain Connector, obviously, as one of your 4 things.
Thank you, Maddie. All right, I want to thank everybody. I think we do need to break at this point. I do want to thank all of our speakers. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Greg, for being here. We will be sharing this with our larger group at the chamber. Thank you, Commissioner Parks, for always participating and being engaged in what we're doing. So that will be it for today, and I want to thank you all for attending. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us.